Tradesmen enter through the eastern gate, the steward said. Evelyn Hart looked at the invitation, bearing her full title, Dowager Duchess of Calderwick. Across the courtyard, noble guests laughed as servants pushed her steam fire engine towards the workshop entrance. A duchess who builds machines should expect to be treated like a mechanic, Duchess Rowena remarked. Evelyn removed her silk gloves. Then I shall enter with the people who know how the building actually works. 3 hours later, flames consumed the west wing of Ravenshire Palace. The ballroom doors were locked, the water pipes had failed, and Duke Julian was trapped behind a wall of smoke. As the Royal Fire Brigade retreated, Julian saw Evelyn standing beside the machine his family had mocked. "Save them," he said. She seized the pressure lever. "First, Your Grace, you will stop giving orders and follow mine." Earlier that afternoon, Ravenshire Palace had shone beneath a clear spring sky. Banners for the Royal Industrial Exhibition covered the courtyard. Inventors, investors, and titled patrons entered through the marble arch, while workers unloaded machinery through a narrow passage beside the kitchens. Evelyn's engine was the largest device in the exhibition. Mounted upon an iron carriage, it used steam pressure to draw water from ponds, wells, and canals. During private trials, it had delivered more than twice the force of the hand pumps used by the city brigade. Yet the exhibition catalogue credited its design to Mr. Charles Fenwick, a committee engineer who had never entered Evelyn's workshop. She found the printed placard attached to the engine, the Fenwick high-pressure fire apparatus. Martha Cole, Evelyn's workshop manager, swore beneath her breath. "They have taken your name from every page." Evelyn tore the placard from its brass frame. A committee official hurried towards her. "Your Grace, that display has been approved. The machine has not. It was considered more suitable for a recognized engineer to present the technical details. I designed the pressure chambers. Mr. Fenwick is a member of the Royal Engineering Association. Mr. Fenwick once asked me which direction water travels through a valve." The official lowered his voice. "Your title entitles you to attend the reception. It does not make you a mechanic." "No, the work made me one." She took a piece of black chalk from Martha's tool case and wrote across the empty brass plate, "Designed by Evelyn Hart and the Calderwick workshop." Several noblewomen watched from the terrace. One laughed behind her fan. Duchess Rowena Ravenshire did not bother hiding her disapproval. Oil beneath the fingernails is difficult to reconcile with a coronet. Evelyn looked at Rowena's jeweled hands. So is incompetence, yet society has managed it for generations. The laughter stopped. Julian Wycliffe, Duke of Ravenshire, approached before his mother could answer. He was tall, controlled, and dressed in the dark blue coat of the Exhibition Council. His family owned the palace, several foundries, and much of the district surrounding the river. He examined the altered placard. "Is there a difficulty?" "Only if one objects to theft," Evelyn said. The committee officials stiffened. The catalogue was arranged according to convention. "Then your convention has stolen my invention." Julian glanced towards the gathering guests. "This can be corrected after the opening. The exhibition opens in 12 minutes. I will speak to the committee privately. You watched them send me through the servants' gate." "I did not give that instruction." "You allowed it." His expression tightened. "Must this become a public dispute?" "It became public when your staff removed my name." Julian lowered his voice. "There are ministers, foreign investors, and members of the royal household inside. This exhibition supports thousands of jobs, and therefore I should be grateful to have my work displayed under a man's name. I am asking for patience." Evelyn returned the chalk to Martha. "Patience is what powerful men request when justice would inconvenience their schedule." She turned away before he could answer. Julian did not stop her. That silence would remain with him long after the first flame appeared. The evening reception began in the West Ballroom. Crystal lamps hung above hundreds of guests. Silk curtains covered the walls, and polished tables displayed models of bridges, steamships, and mining equipment. Evelyn had changed into a dark green evening gown but kept the workshop keys at her waist. She stood beside Martha near the service corridor, examining the building plans. "The nearest water pipe is here," Martha said, pointing towards the ballroom wall. "The engine can draw from the ornamental lake if we run 200 feet of hose. The committee will never permit wet equipment across their carpets. They may reconsider when something burns." A footman hurried past carrying a tray. Behind him, Evelyn noticed a man fastening a metal plate over a door latch. "That door should open towards the courtyard," she said. Martha looked. "He is bolting it." The man disappeared before they reached him. Evelyn touched the new iron fitting. It had been installed over the original handle. "Who ordered this?" A palace servant shook his head. "The doors were inspected this morning, Your Grace." A sharp smell reached her. Not coal smoke, lamp oil. Then someone screamed. Flame raced along the upper curtains with unnatural speed. Within seconds, the western wall became a sheet of fire. Guests surged towards the main doors. They did not open. The iron bolts held them shut from the outside. "Move away from the doors," Evelyn shouted. No one listened. Men pushed forwards, trapping women and servants against the panels. Smoke gathered beneath the ceiling. Julian climbed onto a chair. "Remain calm. The palace brigade is coming." Evelyn seized a silver serving tray and struck it against the table. The noise cut through the panic. "The eastern service corridor is still clear. Walk, do not run. Remove shawls and cover your mouths." A nobleman stared at her. "Who placed you in command?" "The fire." Martha began directing servants towards the corridor. Evelyn reached the water cabinet and turned the emergency valve. Nothing happened. She tried again. The pipe was dry. Julian joined her. "The palace reservoir was tested this morning. Then someone closed it after the test." A section of burning curtain fell across the ballroom entrance. Guests screamed. Julian looked towards the far side of the room. "My sister is in the music gallery. You cannot reach her through that smoke. She is 17. He wrapped a cloth around his face and ran before Evelyn could stop him. The ceiling beams groaned. Evelyn turned to Martha. "Get the engine to the lake. Use the eastern pump line. The committee chained the carriage wheels after the exhibition. Break the chains. And you? I am opening those doors." She took a brass fire axe from the wall and struck the iron plate covering the latch. A committee member caught her arm. "That paneling is imported walnut." Evelyn stared at him. "There are people dying behind it." She struck again. The decorative wood split. Smoke poured through the gap as servants on the other side pulled at the door. Outside, the Royal Fire Brigade arrived with 2 hand pumps. Inspector Samuel Reed ordered his men to connect to the palace main. "No pressure," one shouted. "The reservoir valve is locked." Reed looked towards the growing flames. "Withdraw from the west entrance. The roof may collapse." Evelyn emerged through the smoke. "Do not withdraw. My engine can draw from the lake." Reed recognized her. "The experimental apparatus?" "The apparatus that produces 3 times your pressure." "I will not place my men under the direction of a lady with no brigade rank." A crash sounded from inside. Julian appeared behind a shattered window on the upper floor, supporting his injured sister. Flames blocked the staircase below them. Evelyn pointed towards the window. "You may protect your rank, Inspector. I am protecting the people behind that glass." Reed looked at Julian, then at the useless hand pumps. "What do you require?" 6 men on the main hose, 4 on the rear intake. No one touches the pressure valve except me or Martha. Martha shouted from the courtyard. Steam rising. Workers had broken the chains and rolled the engine beside the ornamental lake. Evelyn climbed onto the platform. A committee engineer rushed towards her. "That boiler has not been approved for emergency operation." She pushed his hand away from the lever. It was designed for emergency operation. The engine shuddered. Water filled the intake pipe. Pressure climbed. "Open the first line," Evelyn ordered. A powerful stream struck the ballroom doors and tore the weakened panels from their hinges. Smoke and terrified guests poured into the courtyard. "Second line to the upper window." Reed's men raised the hose. The first blast shattered burning timber beneath the music gallery. Evelyn adjusted the pressure, creating a clear path towards the staircase. Julian carried his sister down while firemen shielded them with water. Halfway across the ballroom, a beam fell. Evelyn increased the pressure beyond the exhibition limit. The false safety valve attached to the engine began to vibrate. Martha saw it. "Evelyn, the valve is wrong. Cut it free. It may release the chamber. If we stop now, the gallery collapses." Martha struck the fitting with a wrench. The valve split. Steam burst from the side of the engine, but the main chamber held. Julian reached the courtyard moments before the gallery fell behind him. He lowered his sister into a doctor's arms. Then he turned towards Evelyn. Her gown was blackened with soot. Her hair had come loose. One hand was bleeding where the metal lever had cut her palm. The woman his council had sent through the tradesman's gate now commanded every officer in his courtyard. "You saved them," he said. "We have not finished." She pointed towards the servants' wing. 3 fires began in separate places. That was not an accident. By dawn, the west wing was a smoking shell. 26 guests and servants had been treated for burns or smoke, but no one had died. Lord Percival Crane arrived before the final flames were extinguished. As chairman of the Urban Improvement Council, he carried authority over public safety investigations. He walked directly towards Evelyn's engine. This device must be seized. Martha stepped between him and the carriage. On what grounds? Percival ignored her. "The steam chamber appears to have ruptured. It may have spread the fire through the palace pipes." Evelyn held up the false valve Martha had removed. "The fire began before the engine was started. That is your claim. It is the testimony of 400 witnesses. You had a financial interest in demonstrating your invention during a crisis." Julian approached. "You are suggesting the Duchess set fire to my palace?" "I am suggesting ambition can make people reckless." Percival signaled to 2 officers. "Arrest the workshop manager and seal the Calderwick premises." Martha's face hardened. Evelyn moved in front of her. "No one arrests my workers." "You do not control this investigation." "No, but I understand the machinery your investigators are already misrepresenting." Percival looked at Julian. "Your Grace, after tonight's disorder, surely you cannot permit a woman with a personal interest to examine the scene." Julian hesitated, only briefly. But Evelyn saw it. The same instinct that had silenced him at the exhibition had returned. Avoid conflict, protect the institution, allow procedure to decide. She turned away from him. "I do not require permission to examine an attempt on my life." Percival's expression flickered. "Your life." Evelyn displayed the false valve. "This was installed to make my engine explode when it reached full pressure. Whoever set the fires expected the machine to be used." Silence settled over the courtyard. Martha brought 2 more objects from the damaged ballroom: a newly forged door bolt and a broken padlock bearing the crest of the Urban Improvement Council. Inspector Reed joined them. The main water valve was locked with the same type of mechanism used on council demolition sites. Percival's composure remained intact. "Common equipment proves nothing." "Perhaps," Evelyn said, "but 3 separate fires, sealed exits, a disabled water supply, and a sabotaged engine suggest planning." Julian took the council padlock from Reed. "Why would your office possess access to my reservoir?" Percival answered at once. "Ravenshire Palace is included in the district safety survey you authorized." Julian frowned. "What survey?" Percival removed a folded order from his case. Julian's signature appeared at the bottom. The document granted the Urban Improvement Council authority to inspect, close, and clear any building declared unsafe after a major fire. The order did not apply only to the palace. It covered the entire riverside district. Thousands of laborers lived there. Evelyn read the final clause. If 6 adjoining buildings are damaged in one incident, the council may evacuate the full district and transfer the land for redevelopment. Julian's face changed. I did not approve forced transfer. You signed the order, Percival said. Evelyn looked towards the river beyond the palace gardens. Warehouses, workers' homes, and narrow streets stretched along the water. A rider entered the courtyard at speed. He carried a message addressed to Martha. She opened it and went pale. 3 wagons left a council warehouse before dawn, she said, all carrying lamp oil. Where were they sent? Evelyn asked. Martha handed her the paper. The destination was the Riverside district. At the bottom, a delivery instruction had been added. Hold until the public inquiry begins. Ignite all 6 sites upon the chairman's signal. A church bell sounded from across the city. The royal safety inquiry would begin at noon. They had 4 hours before 6 crowded streets were set on fire. The royal safety inquiry opened at noon beneath the glass dome of the exhibition hall. Evelyn arrived with soot still darkening the cuffs of her gown. Members of the engineering council sat behind an elevated table. Percival Crane occupied the central chair as though the investigation already belonged to him. Julian entered beside her. A steward moved to announce him, but Julian raised one hand. No titles, he said. Not until we know whose authority nearly killed the people in my palace. Percival did not rise. The inquiry concerns the failure of an experimental fire engine operated without approval. It concerns 6 planned fires, Evelyn said. Murmurs spread through the chamber. She placed the false pressure valve, the council padlock, and the forged door bolt upon the evidence table. Percival barely glanced at them. Her Grace has brought loose objects from an uncontrolled scene. No chain of custody exists. You attempted to arrest the woman who found them, Evelyn replied. I attempted to preserve public order. You attempted to remove the only people who understood the machine. A council engineer cleared his throat. Technical evidence should be presented by a qualified member of the Royal Engineering Association. Evelyn looked towards him. You called me a mechanic when you wanted to humiliate me. Now you deny that I am one because the truth is inconvenient. Several observers lowered their eyes. Percival lifted the damaged valve. This object may have failed because the Duchess exceeded safe pressure. Martha stepped forward. It did not fail. She placed Evelyn's original design drawings beside the valve. The engine was built for a pressure of 180 pounds. The false valve was designed to rupture at 120. The engineer examined the measurements. Who prepared these drawings? I did, Evelyn said. Who verified them? My workshop. That is not independent verification. No, it is the work you displayed under another man's name yesterday. The room fell silent. Julian placed the exhibition catalogue before the panel. The invention was credited to Charles Fenwick without the Duchess's consent. Percival leaned back. This inquiry is not a debate about social discourtesy. It became relevant, Julian said, when the same men who erased her name were placed in charge of judging her evidence. Evelyn looked at him. He had not defended her ability for her. He had identified the conflict of interest. That difference mattered. A clerk entered and whispered to Percival. Percival's eyes flickered towards the clock. The signal was approaching. Evelyn saw it. She turned to Samuel Reed. Inspector, ask where the chairman's carriage is. Percival struck the table. This proceeding will not be interrupted by speculation. Reed moved towards the doors. 2 council guards blocked him. That was enough. Julian removed the blue enamel badge, identifying him as patron of the inquiry. He placed it on the table. I withdraw the authority of Ravenshire from this proceeding. You cannot dissolve a royal inquiry, Percival said. No, but I can refuse to lend it my palace, my name, or my officers. He turned towards the audience. Any member who wishes to investigate the evidence may remain. Any member who wishes to protect the chairman may do so publicly. 3 engineers stood and left. Samuel did not. Neither did the fire brigade officers. Evelyn gathered her drawings. We are wasting time. Percival rose. Where are you going? To stop the fires you arranged. His face remained controlled, but one hand tightened around the chair. You have no proof that any fires exist. Martha held up the delivery order. It bears your office seal. Stolen. Then you should be eager to accompany us. Evelyn walked from the chamber. Julian followed. This time, no one asked him to lead. The riverside district lay beneath a grey sky. 6 streets had been marked with white survey paint. Workers believed the signs indicated new drainage lines. Evelyn understood them immediately. They identified the buildings Percival intended to lose. The first oil wagon stood behind a warehouse on Mercer Lane. Its driver had disappeared. Martha climbed beneath the carriage. 2 barrels are already open. Evelyn smelled the air. Lamp oil had been poured along the foundation and beneath the wooden stairs. Evacuate this building, she ordered. Samuel divided his men between the streets. Julian approached a group of residents. You must leave at once. An elderly woman recognized the seal on his coat. You signed the clearance order. I did. The accusation stopped him. He did not deny it. I signed without reading its full power. That was my failure. But the danger is real, and I am asking you to leave now. A young laborer stepped forward. Where do we go? Julian removed the key ring from his belt. Ravenshire warehouses, the palace kitchens, every building I own above the East Road. You expect us to trust you? No, Julian said. I expect you to protect your families. Trust can wait. The laborer took the keys. For the next hour, residents carried children, blankets and tools towards higher ground. Evelyn's workshop crew opened hydrants that had been sealed by council locks. Each lock bore the same maker's mark as the one taken from the palace. At the 4th Street, Martha found copper wire running beneath the gutter. It connects all 6 sites. Evelyn followed it to a warehouse office. Inside stood a timing mechanism linked to a series of electrical igniters. Percival did not need men stationed at every building. One signal could ignite the district. How long? Julian asked. Less than 20 minutes. Evelyn reached for the mechanism. A shot broke the office window. The bullet struck the wall beside her. Julian pulled her behind a stone pillar. 2 men appeared on the warehouse roof, council demolition workers. Samuel's officers returned fire into the air, forcing them back. We cannot reach the timer safely, he said. Evelyn studied the copper wire. We do not need the timer. She ran outside towards the pumping station. The district's water system had been designed in separate sections. Percival's men had closed the main valves, but Evelyn had noticed an old industrial line connecting the river pumps to the textile works. Can your engine reach all 6 streets? Julian asked. Not from one position. Then divide the hoses. We will lose pressure. Can the palace engine assist? The hand pumps are too weak. I did not ask about the hand pumps. A low whistle sounded from the road. Julian's estate workers were towing the exhibition's 2nd steam boiler behind a team of horses. He had ordered it brought before leaving the inquiry. Evelyn looked at him. You anticipated this? I listened when you said one machine could be sabotaged. For the first time that day, she smiled. Place it at Mercer Lane. Connect both engines through the textile main. Workers moved quickly. Residents who had spent years being ignored by building inspectors now helped lay hose lines across their own streets. Women filled buckets. Dock workers tore down wooden fences that might carry flame between houses. Children were moved to the warehouses above the East Road. The timer bell sounded somewhere inside the building. 10 minutes. Evelyn opened the first engine's pressure chamber. Martha checked the second. Samuel positioned fire crews at each marked property. Julian stood beside the main coupling, holding the iron joint in place while workers secured it. His ceremonial coat was gone. His hands were black with grease. Duchess Rowena arrived in a covered carriage. She stared at her son kneeling in the mud beside laborers. "Julian, step away from that machine." He did not look up. "Not now, mother. This is no work for the Duke of Ravenshire." Evelyn tightened the pressure line. Neither was being trapped in a burning ballroom, apparently. Rowena's face hardened. "You have encouraged him to forget his position." "No," Julian said. "She has forced me to understand it." The timer struck again. 5 minutes. Then flames appeared at the far end of Mercer Lane. Percival had triggered the system early. Fire raced along the oil-soaked foundations. A second building ignited. Then a third. "Open the river intake," Evelyn shouted. Martha released the valve. Both steam engines roared. Water surged through the divided lines. At first, the pressure failed. The hoses trembled without lifting. Percival emerged from an alley behind the pumping station. He carried an iron wrench. Before anyone reached him, he struck the central coupling. The joint cracked. Water exploded across the street. The pressure collapsed. "You will be remembered as the woman who promised safety," he said, and delivered a district to the flames. Evelyn looked at the broken coupling, then towards the textile factory. She had expected him to attack the main line. 3 hours earlier, she had instructed Martha to prepare a second route. "Release the roof tanks," Evelyn ordered. Martha pulled a red lever mounted beside the factory wall. High above them, storage tanks opened. Water descended through old dying pipes into the secondary network residents had connected that morning. Hoses filled across all 6 streets. Percival's expression changed. Evelyn seized the nearest nozzle. Now, streams of water struck the burning foundations before the flames reached the upper floors. Samuel's brigade attacked the warehouses. Residents soaked roofs and doorways. Julian and the dock workers held the damaged main hose together with iron clamps. At the 5th building, a staircase collapsed while 2 children remained inside. Evelyn redirected the high-pressure line through a rear window. The stream broke burning timber from the passage. Samuel entered with 3 firefighters and carried both children out. The last flames were extinguished before sunset. 6 streets stood damaged. None were destroyed. No one had died. Percival attempted to reach his carriage. Thomas, the young labourer who had taken Julian's keys, blocked the road with 20 residents behind him. "You marked our homes before you burned them," Thomas said. Samuel arrested Percival in the street he had intended to erase. The public inquiry resumed 2 days later. This time, Percival sat below the panel under guard. Evelyn presented the delivery order: oil purchases, council locks, demolition maps, and redevelopment contracts. Martha demonstrated that the false valve had been manufactured by a company owned through Percival's investment trust. Samuel confirmed the same method had been used in 3 earlier riverside fires. Julian produced the order bearing his signature. He did not claim it had been forged. "I signed this document without reading the transfer clause," he said. "I trusted the council because its members belonged to families I had known all my life." He faced the crowded chamber. "I remained silent when the Duchess of Calderwick was humiliated because I considered the matter too small to disturb the exhibition." His mother sat among the noble witnesses. Julian continued. "The insult was small only to those who did not suffer it. The consequence was that her expertise was excluded from decisions concerning public safety." He looked towards Evelyn, but did not ask her to stand beside him. "She did not require my permission to lead. She required me to stop standing in her way." Percival was charged with attempted murder, arson, fraud, and conspiracy. The Urban Improvement Council was dissolved. The Riverside clearance order was revoked. Evelyn refused appointment as chief engineer to the royal household. Instead, she founded an independent fire safety authority governed by engineers, firefighters, factory workers, and residents. Every inventor's name had to appear on the equipment they designed. Every public building, including ducal palaces, became subject to the same inspection rules. Ravenshire Palace failed its first inspection. Evelyn closed the west wing for 6 months. Julian did not object. When repairs were completed, he invited her to return. The eastern entrance had been widened. Above the arch, new stone letters read, Engineer's Gate. Duchess Rowena waited inside. For a moment, Evelyn expected another criticism. Instead, Rowena handed her the original exhibition catalogue. Every false credit had been removed. "I was wrong," she said. The words appeared physically difficult. Evelyn accepted the catalogue. "Yes," Rowena blinked. "You might have made that easier. You made the original insult quite public." A reluctant smile touched the older woman's face. Julian joined Evelyn beneath the arch. "The palace has passed every inspection except one. What remains? The engineer's approval." She examined the new exits, water valves, and alarm bells. Then she signed the certificate. Julian handed her the complete ring of palace keys. "I would like permission to court you. You are asking during an inspection. I was advised to choose a moment when you might consider me useful." Evelyn looked towards the gate once reserved for people considered beneath the palace. "Pass the next inspection without warning, and then ask again." He opened the door and stepped aside. Evelyn entered first. The council members who had once laughed at the mechanic in a duchess's gown moved aside to let her pass, not because Julian ordered them, because the woman they had tried to exclude now decided whether their grandest buildings were safe enough to remain open.